let me know when you are ready, man, and we will get started.
Let's roll, man. On your clock. So
3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. We have the 75th episode of the Hashtag Invest This podcast. I'm your host, Scott Bauer. Today we got Rafael Cortez with us. And first and foremost, I want to throw out there that if you're getting value out of the podcast, if you've learned anything from the podcast, do us a favor here and like it, share it, give it to your network, because we're trying to help as many people as we can move their business as quickly as possible, and we're using the content that I'm getting out there to do that. So like, share, subscribe, let's be part of the tribe. Anyways, Rafael, how are you, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Very honored.
Excited to have you here for sure. A little bit about him. He actually became a firefighter in Yuma at 19 years old, stayed there for the first half of his 20s, and at the same time began working on his first business, which was a non-emergency medical transportation company, which he launched in 2006 as a solopreneur and sold in 2014 with a full fleet and over 40 employees. Pretty impressive. We're going to talk about that. Then he got into real estate right around 2009, and since then he's been wholesaling and flipping as a big part of his business. He's been very blessed to have met great people in the industry and worked with some of the key players throughout the years, and has successfully negotiated over 600 deals in his real estate investment career. He's currently the owner-broker of Pulse Realty and Associates based in Phoenix, as well as doing his investments through Pulse Capital, LLC, and his personal and professional development through CEO of Pulse LLC, where he offers coaching, consulting, corporate trainings as an organizational psychologist in topics like operating systems, sales, behavioral psychology, personal growth, and business processes. So, with that was a lot, man. That was a lot. Why don't you give the listeners a little bit more about your background, other than what I just shared, and, really what you're focused on now?
Well, right now, a lot of what I do really kind of revolves around the real estate investment side. I do have the brokerage, and that's it's getting traction. So that's pretty cool. It was kind of like a rite of passage, jumping into real estate, around 2009. It just became one of those things, after a few years, got the license, and then after that, the brokerage. I've been an entrepreneur since 2006. So ever since I left the fire department, and I've always wanted to have, I'm not such a great employee as far as accountability goes. Give me direction and I'll get it done, kind of deal. So I've always been better with just operating on my own and on my terms and stuff like that. So it's one of the things that kind of pushes me to to produce. So right now I have those 3 companies, and a lot of the things, the items on the wholesaling side of it, which is one of the big cornerstones for me. Pulse Capital, it's for the most part it's automated, so it gives me time to do my career as an organizational psychologist and do organizational coaching there, not just in real estate, but just different businesses,
sure,
home health and all that. So yeah.
Did you start out as an agent then? I'm guessing. Did you start off as a real estate agent, or where did you get your first into real estate?
I know, man. I kind of wish I had. I started off as a really, really stubborn flipper, and lost my ass on a couple of properties at the beginning. Learned a few real expensive lessons, and made it back on a couple deals after that. But I didn't get my license until 2000. I think it was 2013.
Okay.
2014, actually, 2014. And that's because I sold my medical transportation company. So I sold that, and I was just, kind of sitting around, and I've been playing with real estate investments, not really, putting in the time to learn, the craft and basically, picking up a hammer, flipping a house, and then, that was it. But there's so much more that goes into it. When you start getting your hands, really, and you go all in. So yeah, there was a few tough learning lessons at the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes people think that the flipping industry is it's just swinging a hammer, it's just flipping a house. There's no business organization behind it. But the reality is
sounds like me, man, at the beginning.
Well, and that's most people. And I think anybody that goes into a business to begin with, doesn't necessarily know exactly what it is that they're doing and doesn't necessarily have any direction to what they're doing, but they get into it and they think it's easy stuff. And it's not until you actually make a business out of it does it become a profitable profit generating center, so to speak.
Right. If you can walk away from it and it's still generating, then you have business. If not, you're an employee of your own. You're self-employed. That's it.
Yeah. And you know what, man? Like I'm still very, very, very active in my business right now. It's the process of getting out of that active side of things. And I think that there's just a lot of, it starts in between your own 2 ears, right? That's where it all has to start. And there's a time frame too, because I also think there's a lot of value in working your business first before you're able to bring other people in and tell them what to do. To an extent. Yeah,
absolutely. I completely agree, man. I don't think you can hit on the on the head, closer than that, because it's at least in my perspective, you can come in with funding, you can borrow money, you can do all kinds of stuff. But until you have that trench work done, that experience of how you want your organization to be, I mean, you can't just pay somebody to do it for you. You know what I mean? It's not, you do delegate, as soon as you're able to put something together. But if you don't know at least, the basic concept of what it is, and you've done it a few times and you have, a close relationship to whatever the outcome is going to be, I mean, it's really, really hard to put something together. I've tried to do or to launch businesses in places where I had no idea, what was going on. It just sounded like good, monetary, results. And then I don't know what I'm doing. I'm, plugging people in left and right because I know systems, but I don't know the specifics of that business. And I didn't take the time to look into it. I mean, they crashed and burned. And the stuff that I've invested time into, at least, learning and figuring out how I can put it together in a way that it works, that it also works for me. I mean, those are the ones that keep going and have given me the best results.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when did you actually say that you started? So you got your license, you said in 2013, 2014. Was that when did you go all in on the real estate side? Like just dove in 2 feet, everything about it?
Right there. It's actually a funny story. So I got the license in 2014, and a few months prior, right? I mean, as soon as I sold my business, I was just kind of looking for something to do. Like, okay, what's going to be my next route, right? And I got my boy at the time. I think he was 7. I told him, this is how you do an interview. So I sat down and I did a video interview because I got one of Sean's emails, and I did an interview, put a nice shirt on. I was wearing board shorts at the bottom, and I did it actually from this room where I'm sitting right now. It's my home office. And I told my kid, look, this is whenever you want to apply for a job, this is how you do it. So I did a short little resume, 5 minutes, send it in, and I don't know, months went by. I got the license, and I forgot about the submission and all that stuff. And I get a call one day. And I mean, I was playing with real estate. I think I had maybe a couple of listings done by then, and I'd done a few wholesale deals. Most of the stuff had been in just flipping. And then I got a call, and on the phone, it's like, hey, is this Rafael? I'm like, yeah, this is Sean Terry. And I thought it was one of my buddies, right? I'm like, dude, get the hell out of here. And I hung up. And because I thought it was one of my buddies, and he called back. He goes, oh, is this Rafael? Yeah, this is Sean. I was like, oh my God. So he ended up bringing me in. We sat down for an interview, and I mean, that's when I really went all into wanting to learn and to wanting to figure out what was in real estate aside from picking up a hammer and then flipping and hiring subs and all that stuff. Yeah, so it was right around the 2014.
Okay. So that was on the wholesale side. You said you were doing flips before that, so you kind of already knew a bit about real estate, right?
Right.
Okay, so then Sean Terry comes into your life. Did you follow his product at that time? Were you following his podcast? And
yeah, I did. I followed his advice just from the podcast, and I actually closed a couple of wholesale deals. So by then, I mean, I'm not one of those that jumps in without having looking at a track record and making sure that people know what they're talking about before they teach.
Yeah.
So I used this stuff and I made money with it. I was like, all right, cool. Tell my wife, listen, I've been on my own for years, but if I'm gonna go work at a place that's not mine, and it's going to be a place where I'm getting challenged. I'm at the tip of the sword, and I don't know what the hell. I got to be the dumbest guy in the room. And yeah, sure enough, man, that was it.
So, and what did that look like? I mean, you came in right away as an acquisitions person for him, or?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I came in, and then it was a pretty much a trial by fire kind of deal. Yeah, sink or swim. And so I started going on appointments, and actually Brandon went on the first few appointments with me. So I shadowed him on a couple of ones, and then he goes, I think it was maybe a week into it. He goes, I think you're ready for, for your appointments. I was, yeah, I mean, bring it on. So I went on appointments and started doing my thing. It was kind of rough the first, few weeks. I'm not gonna lie, as far as, the responses, the type of, kind of backbone that you have to build out when you're going into appointments. And it was all new to me. I've never been in sales. I've been on, getting government contracts and stuff like that, which is completely different.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, man.
What would you say? But I mean, like, from a mentor standpoint, that was huge, right? Because Sean Terry was there to mentor you, to show you what, do you think you would have had the same success without him being there? Or
no way.
Yeah.
No way. He's ever since I met him, he's been one of my biggest mentors, one of the biggest influences actually, and points of inspiration. The guy is a machine.
Yeah.
And he's such a great human being. I mean, that's the coolest part. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that I could go on, well, first off, getting all that exposure. Whenever I had a question, come back and break it down at the table, and okay, this is what we can do. I came into a lot of just borrowed experience right there, from the best. So I jumped 10 years, man, right there. I got 10 years of the learning curve just by having access to that position there. So.
Are you only doing single family stuff at this point, and still, I guess now, I mean, is it all single family wholesaling, flipping? Do you have rentals as well?
I'm not doing right now. I'm not doing any buy and hold. I'm gonna wait a little bit, maybe a year and a half, 2 years for that, because I think, where the market's headed. We've heard that a lot recently. So, yeah, I honestly like wholesaling. I'd rather wholesale something, than come in and then buy it low and then flip it, do all that work. Just be in and out of the transaction, push paper, and to me, that's the key thing. And yeah, to answer your question, I do market single families, of course. Marketing here in Phoenix, which is like the maker for wholesaling, and then I'm tapping into a couple of different markets and looking also for multifamily. So outside of that, I don't venture too much. Every now and then I'll do like a mobile home deal, and it's crazy, but those are brought in, have brought in some good cash too. Yeah, so a little bit of those three.
And that's really a good point. You said you don't really, you don't shy away from single family. Well, I think that's really, really important for the listeners out there to stay targeted. I've talked about it with quite a few guests that have been on the show where, you really need to be focused, because what you focus on will, you'll perfect that art, right?
Right.
So talk to the listeners a little bit about what that experience has been like for you. The fact, because let's be honest. We all get shiny object syndrome at some point in our career, and there's no shortage of shiny objects out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a good thing that you dive into it, because it's been in the making for me. So I didn't just jump into my own, open up Pulse Capital and then started, hitting a multifamily and kind of venturing outside of single families. What happened was that I was able to create the systems to. If you can analyze a property, it's step one. Figure out what the property's worth, right? It's
right.
If you have that ability, you're going to be okay. And then you can market as much as you want for it, because whenever it comes, you know how to move it quick, analyze it, easy, know if you can, if it's a deal or not, as opposed to locking something and then losing it, 20 days later. So, that was one of the biggest things. So I figured, I set up the process or the operating system for my single family stuff. And then from that point on, I did a couple of other stuff that just kind of piggybacked off of that. And then it made it easy for me to come in and then look at multifamily kind of stuff. I was working on an analysis earlier for 15, it's a 15 unit deal here in Phoenix. So before, if I sat down to look at the whole thing before having a system in place, it would, take me a couple hours to figure it out and kind of run, cap rates, NOIs and all that stuff, and cash returns. Right now, it really literally took me, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. So when you have something like that, you can ramp up the marketing and then start tapping into different places in different types of properties. But I would recommend when you're going into it, yeah, I mean, tackle one thing and then figure that out, and then move on to you see what you can add on as far as value, profits, and raising the bottom line.
Yep, I would agree. Would you say that it is important for somebody to go out there and build the system first before you go in and try to figure out the product or build? I mean, what is your take on systems? You know, what does your systems look like?
I'm a systems guy. I mean, that's what I do as an organizational psychologist, is pretty much putting people and systems together, right? So they flow and work. But what happens with systems are kind of like a step 3 in a startup, right? So first you have to look at profits when what I see, like a lot of new people jumping into real estate investments or wholesaling, stuff like that. They want to just, cover and set up systems and all that stuff before they even, before they produce. And what happens is that, that euphoria of launching a business and that drive kind of starts fading down after a while, because you're not getting results. And then if you can't keep the lights on, you're not going to be, you can't keep your people, happy, right?
You're going out of business.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So step 1, priority 1, when you're launching, it's going to be always profit. It sounds mean. As a lot of people like to think, no, people first. Not really, because if you don't keep the lights on, like I said, your people are going to go away, right? So you focus on profits, whatever that looks like for you when you're starting off. Doing the trench work, driving for dollars. If your budget is, it's lower, whatever it takes to get some cash in the door. And then you start putting together a team. Why? Because you already have an idea of what the process is going to look like. It's not completely clear, right? And everybody has their own operating system. Things work differently for people.
Yep.
But yeah, so you focus on people second, and then systems come in third. When you have, a little bit of liquidity, and then you have, a couple of people that you can rely on, then you can start, refining your process. Also, by then, you already went through a few transactions. You have a really good idea of what it takes, and then you have a better grip on what an operating system is going to look like and how you can automate that. I mean, the whole point of having a system like that is that you can automate it or delegate it to somebody else.
Yeah,
you can elevate from that. So.
How long would you say that you were in the business before you were at a spot where you could start to delegate and start to kind of remove yourself from the business? Walk us down your generational chart. When I say generational, what did you start with first? What was your first hire? What do you feel like is a good system for people from a hiring standpoint that are trying to build a real estate wholesale business? I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Cool. So specifically for wholesale, this industry, I would one of the things that takes up the most time, of course, is it's lead generation. I hate cold calling. It's not my cup of tea. So as soon as I was able to do something about that, I plugged somebody in. It wasn't my strength, right? My strength became closing. So I like negotiating deals. I wasn't going to plug in an acquisition guy right out of the gate because I like that. I enjoy it. I was good at it. So I couldn't fill it up. I could fill up that spot for the time being. So I plugged in a lead generation guy. Transaction coordination, it gets, tricky on the back end because you have to figure out what sometimes you have to get creative to be able to close deals, right? So that's another, kind of higher level position, but definitely lead generation and somebody who can get the appointment set up and all that stuff. So that's one thing. That's actually what I started with. And then I started plugging people into it.
You started with lead generation, somebody on like lead manager is what you started with?
Yep. Yeah, that was my first hire, lead manager, doing the the calling, and then I started putting in place automated marketing, stuff like that. So I started taking just people that were calling back, they would respond to that, and pretty much triaging or filtering out who was a lead, who wasn't, right? So that to me was, it took a big load off my back. And then after that, just because I'm an acquisitions guy, transaction coordination was the second hire for me. But if, for example, if you're somebody who's more of an introvert, you don't want to, you don't want to be out there with people and hire and all that stuff. Probably transaction coordination is going to be better for you than doing acquisition. So your second hire could be, an acquisition guy. So, it just depends on the person who's running the business at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I'm ballpark as you. The negotiation side of things, the acquisition side of things is what I love to do. That's how I got started. Yeah. That's what I like to do. So I'm not going to hire that out. The other thing too is that's what's generating revenue. That's what's bringing money in. So if you're to go hire an acquisitions guy and they're junk, they don't know what they're doing, you don't have any money coming in, right? And all of a sudden that that faucet of cash that you had turned on dries up. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, bad hires can be really, really expensive, and not just on the payroll spectrum. I mean, you're looking at a cost per lead. You're looking at every appointment that could have potentially been turned. You know, if your average closing is $10,000-$15,000, and you're not closing 3 appointments because you have a bad acquisition guy, that employee is not costing you $3,000 a year, or I'm sorry, a month. It's costing you, 45 plus whatever the payroll was. So it's that's how you have to look at it whenever you're looking at, in my opinion, whenever you're looking at somebody to bring on board. There's points that are critical, that are very critical.
Yeah, I totally would agree with that. Would you say that? What advice could you give on? I mean, how big is your team now? So you said that you built out a team. What does the team look like? Totally.
And I actually run pretty lean, man. Most of the stuff, I built a platform, and most of the stuff, like as far as the analysis, and putting in properties and comps and all that stuff, that takes time. It would take more people to do more deals. It's run, semi-automated, and it takes. I mean, we broke it down to like a 5-minute, process. So I did that, and then I did another crazy thing, which was get rid of my entire lead generation department, because of the system that I put in place. So now, like, for example, leads come in. I have 4 acquisition guys going around. Leads come in, and they go directly to them. They work them, they convert them, they turn them. But these are callbacks from the marketing efforts that I'm already putting out, right? So they're not cold calling. They're not completely cold leads, and it's working. It's working well. So my team right now, it's I have 4 acquisition guys, which are the revenue generating spots, and then transaction coordinator and I like to tweak and play around with the marketing. So I take care of that. I'll set it up, at the beginning of the month, and just let it roll.
Yep. Amen to that.
It's a lean operation.
Do you have your acquisitions guys on on a round robin? I mean, how do you split up the leads for them so that it's equally, or is there one?
No, man. I read Ray Dalio's book. Forget the name. Principles. Yeah, that's right behind me. This one right here. So I read it a while back. I'm a huge reader. I read it a while back, and one of the biggest things that I took away from that was merit. Just operating based off of meritocracy. Is that how you pronounce it? I never, always.
And it's funny because Ray Dalio talks about meritocracy so much in his interviews and the book. Did you just read that book? Because it was the most boring thing I had read for a while.
I did. What I do though, like the way that I tackle on books, I'll buy the audio version and then I'll buy the book. So I'll do, if I have time to sit down and read it, I'll read it. If not, I'll just listen to it while I'm working out or doing something. But so the biggest thing that I took from that book, I mean, there was a bunch of golden nuggets, but was merit, and I started thinking, how can I build that into the company? So it's not a round robin, man. When you have what I've seen, and this is something that I'm testing out, I can't give you, it improves productivity by 100% or 80%. I don't have that yet, but so far it's been working. So what I do is leads come in, and I have my guys, right, and basically the way that we are set up, it's based off merit, meaning that if they're hungry, if they want to put in the time, they come in, they can just go into the leads bucket. It's an open, I mean, literally we have tags that say available untouched lead. So they can come in and claim that lead and then, start dialing. So if they claim 100, people to call back a day, it's their merit that's giving them their reward. Yeah, sure enough, man. Some guys are doing, a lot. Some guys are doing, a couple of guys are doing, less, but it's all based off of merit. At the end of the day, they get a big percentage of the profit. And that's, that's how it kind of filters out. And then sure thing. I've brought people on board that looked great at the beginning, just kind of started fading out because the merit wasn't there. And then some guys stay strong. So
I haven't heard of that type of system, but I'm sure it works effectively. And over time, like you're saying, somebody comes in, they're a rock star from the beginning because they have, what is that? They have just like their fake front on for the first 90 days or 180 days, whatever it is. And then the truth comes out, they start to fall off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it fades off. So you end up with a stronger team, and after a while, it kind of filters itself out. There's only so much that you can do when you bring somebody in and then you see them at the hiring table, right? Yeah, you may look at behavioral tendencies. You may they may have all the right answers, and you plug them, and after a while, something changes, and people just can fade out. So I focused on doing better hiring, on doing better systems. And that's kind of like it's a long play. It's not, I've sacrificed a lot of time that I could have put into actually closing and getting revenue and all that stuff. But at this point, it's been able to pull me out of the operation. So I come in and then, mitigate some stuff and then let it run.
Do you have all your guys going to an office? Do they work independently at their homes, and you just kind of talk on a CRM? Or?
I do. Yeah. Well, we're always in contact. For communication, we use Slack. They'll come in, and the platform that I work off it's Podio. So I built out my Podio with a bunch of workflows on the back and all that stuff. So we have a pretty good consistent communication. Any questions pop up, we'll throw it on the board and then answer that. So it's available for responses and kind of like a bank of Q&A kind of deal for internal purposes. So we have that in place. They can come in and work out of the office if they want to. I have an office Central Phoenix. So that's all, that's also an option, but I don't force them. Reason for it is I hate it. If you put me in a box in an office, like you're going to lose me. It was actually at a point where when I was working back with Sean, and they were trying to push this where we had to come in and then dial out, from the office and all that stuff. And I think it was, I was producing, I was doing my thing. And I said, you know what, I know it's not going to work out for me. So I don't want to put somebody who's a closer and then just, throw them into a cage. People are going to produce when they're driven, when their merit is called for. And that's what I want, that's the kind of people that I want to work with. So.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Either they're going to work out or they're not. It's kind of up to them to prove themselves. What would you say is what is one major issue or one problem that you've had in building up your business to this point? If you could name a couple issues that you've had to overcome, what would those be? Dude,
can I put them in alphabetical order? No, man, it's the infamous E-cycle. It's being an entrepreneur, not just in real estate, but putting other stuff together, like the brokerage and the organizational psychology business. Whenever it's happened to me so many times before, I can't even count. It's you pick up traction and then you're flowing, and then boom, you come to a halt for whatever reason. And then you have to sometimes. I've had to rebuild multiple times, and it's part of that tenacity. It's part of that tenacity that you just kind of have to, build up a backbone, and it's not going to be, rainbows and butterflies. If you choose to take on this whole thing, as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. One of the things I've talked about a lot is that if you never give up, you can never lose. If you never quit, you can never lose. You can never be beat, you can never quit, right? Because you quit, that's giving in the towel. Very simple. Tenacity is huge, right? In any business organization that you're going to have out there, any of the listeners, if you're in real estate or not in real estate, whatever business you are in, you gotta be tenacious. You can't quit and give up, because it's very easy to do so, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the examples, for me was back when I sold the company, and I actually jumped, all in into real estate. It's actually before I started working with Sean. I went into this one deal, dude, and I was doing well financially at the time. I sold the business, and so I had my pieces lined up, right? Or so I thought. And I went into this one deal and lost hundreds of thousands, dude. It was crazy. It just crushed me. So it wasn't.
What year was that?
That was 2014. Yeah, 2014.
Okay.
So that just crushed me, dude. It took me back down to, I thought I had it figured out. I didn't really, I could pay the mortgage, I could do all that stuff. And I'm not really a big, huge spender as far as luxuries go. I love having time and, putting, the beauty of life into the experiences. But when you're hit with something like that, you just, by default, you go into this survival mode and you start just trying to swim to whatever shore you can find. You know what I mean? And I thought I had all my shit figured out, and I get hit with that, and it's like starting all over again. Hit a wall, and I hit a wall going into a new business it's sharky, shark. And you just have to know your stuff if you want to be prosperous on it. So it just taught me a lesson. If anything else, on grit and tenacity, man. Just keep pushing forward, whatever it's in my, in my vision, and whatever I see in my future. It's up to me. If I make it there, it's my fault. If I don't make it there, it's also my fault. You know what I mean? It's taking responsibility of that. So I wanted to point fingers when it happened. Because of this. And after a while, I'm like, this shit's not getting me anywhere. Assume the responsibility. I made some bad calls, and that was it.
You point your finger, at somebody, you got 3 pointing back at you. I'm always remembering that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's very easy to do that. But okay, so this is a good transition. You're an avid reader. You've said that already. How would you say personal development has come into building your business? How important is it for you to continuously be improving on yourself to then improve on your business?
That's a number one.
Yeah.
That's hands down the number one thing that has helped me push through the tough times, and that has helped me enjoy the happy times. If I hadn't invested or worked on myself, I don't think I'd be doing the stuff that I'm doing. I wouldn't have the strength for it, just because I wouldn't know myself the way I know myself now. So yeah, personal development. It's huge. It's a big part of my world. I read a lot every single day. I don't really do fiction. I do a lot of personal growth, strategy books and all that stuff. That's what calls to me. I've read a couple of fiction books. One of them was a very, very influential book for me, which was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Yeah, it's just, the ending of it was freaking awesome. As far as, that's a big nugget. So, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't read it, but it's a book that if you learn how to read it and how to apply the examples to your life, you're going to pick up a lot of nuggets from it. So to me, it was one of the books that kind of shed light on the possibilities and opened, the whole path of learning for me.
It's super interesting that you said that's a fiction book. I don't think of that book as a fiction book, although it is.
It's a fable, yeah.
Influence it has had on my life as well. Actually, one of my mentors and coaches, Kent Clothier, gave me the book, told me about it years ago.
Wow.
He actually sent me the book, and when I read it, it's not the easiest book to read because you got to think about it. You got to take it slowly to really understand it, right? But
it's not just a story about a kid. It's not. There's so many layers to it, man. When you're going through the whole thing.
And every chapter, actually every 15 pages that I read, I'd have to sit back and think about what I just read, right? Because how is that applicable? Because if you just read through it, you don't actually think about it. It could just be a story about a guy going through the desert, right? But that's not what happens. So, anyways, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
let's go 5 years down the road. It's 2019, about to come on to 2020. That is unreal, but.
No, man, it's crazy.
What are we going to expect out of you?
Right now, well, for the next 5 years, I really want to go heavy with my CEO Pulse business, which is the organizational psychology side of it. And it's a lot of basically what it is. It's empowering personal and professional development. So I want to go heavy on that. I'm actually working on a podcast. I have a few episodes lined up as well, and
I saw that.
with entrepreneurs from different areas. And those 3 guys on there, because I only have 3 so far. It's on my way. It's not even on Apple or iTunes or anything like that yet. So it's work in progress. But I have really good. I have a really good vibe about it, about the impact that it can make. And it's not going to be just targeted towards real estate, because I've been in different lines of business throughout the years, and it's going to be basically what I would have loved to learn coming into entrepreneurship altogether. There was SBA, and there was a couple of groups that were really helpful for me back then, but I also had a lot of questions that were not answered, and I did a lot of mistakes, cost me a lot of money, and my truth in meditation and in kind of self-knowing, to me has always been, well, I figured out it was empowerment. It was not inspiration. It's not, not giving. It's not any of that. It's empowering. And I think this is one of the vehicles that's gonna help me do that and operate, from a space of truth from within.
That's phenomenal. If there's any way I can be of help, in any way, please let me know. Because I like that you have a mission behind it and you have something you're trying to achieve by giving, right? Which is going to make it successful. So, Rafael, with sake of time, are you ready for a lightning round? You ready for that?
Let's do it. I don't know how ready I am, but let's do it.
Perfect. All right. So what is your hashtag invest this tip? If you could give the listeners one tip to keep their business and life moving forward, what would that be?
Tip for real estate investments: stay on your follow-ups, man. I'm talking I've successfully negotiated over 600 deals, made millions in spreads, and the one thing that's been with me throughout the whole time has been follow up, right? And I can't emphasize it enough. It's people drop the ball after the first contact. Oh, no, this guy doesn't want to sell. Situations change. People change. People, get divorced. People, come into properties they didn't have before. So if you stay on a follow up, your closings are going to go out. It's a long-term play. It's houses, not shoes, people. You know what?
Amen to that. Like, follow up. I always followed the system. No lead left behind. I think it was Todd Toback that I learned that from years ago, right? And it's like follow up because things change, like you said. So that's a great tip. Appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. What is your favorite book that's had a massive impact on your life or business, or both?
For both, it would be a book, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a really good book. Okay. I don't know if you've read it before. Psycho-Cybernetics. Yeah, it's one of them. And then the other one is The Alchemist. And of course, all the classics like Think and Grow Rich and all, those books. But Psycho-Cybernetics it's a really good book on the self. Building from self-image and building out, that confidence and from a psychological standpoint. And crazy thing, it wasn't even written by a psychologist. It was written by a surgeon, plastic surgeon. So
that's interesting. I'm going to order that book and read it because I love new stuff. Some of the guests that have been on here have said the same books over and over again. So I like it that you had something new to bring to the table. I appreciate you sharing.
I'll bring it to you to the next time we meet at the Cover.
Sounds good, man. I'm going to hold you to that.
I got you.
What about advice? Let's talk about advice for a minute. Who's giving you the best advice, and what has that advice been?
There's been a few people that have been very influential. Of course, one of them in real estate, hands down, has been Sean. Super lucky to have the guy in my life. Another one that was really, really, and it came early on in my life. I think I was like maybe 9 or 10. My mom, I was pissed off about, one of my cousins not understanding what I was saying. And like, I don't get it. Why is he not doing this? And we were talking over a console or something like that. We're arguing. And my mom looks at me in the eyes and she goes, mijo, because I'm Mexican. She goes, every mind is a different world. Nobody sees things the way that you see them. Why? Because every mind is a different world. So she said it back then, and it kind of landed a little bit. I can't, I'm not gonna say that at 10 years old, it really sat and and I resonated. It didn't. I'm like, you just give me the fucking game. Or, I'm sorry, I dropped an F-bomb. I don't know if I was allowed to do that, but I was pissed off about that, right? And but years later, it did land on me, and when trying to understand people, trying to the one thing that I can accept is that every mindset is different. Every person has a different thing that works for them. And when you're in teams, when you're building something by yourself, it's not always going to be the best way for the overall organic group. It's not going to be always your way. It's every mind is a different world. People see things differently. So
that's huge, man. I mean, that's a great way to put it. Every mind is different. They're looking at it from a different lens. They're seeing it with different experiences and different contexts to look through. So that's huge, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
How do you like to give back?
How do what?
How do you like to give back?
By empowering.
Okay.
Empowerment. I'm huge on the school of give a man a fish and you teach him for a day. teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So I'm not against, you know, I tithe and I do all that stuff as well. But I think that when you empower somebody, the ripple effect of that goes, you know, on forever. You just don't know how far it's gonna get. If you give somebody just straight out and give, you know, somebody's probably gonna get consumed and it's gonna be, you know, right there and done. Even in, for example, in business advice, if you just give out resources and business advice and all that stuff without really empowering or having substance behind it, they may take it at the beginning, but it'll die down if there's no essence behind, you know, the thing. So to me, it's empowering. I do that when I sit down and start, you know, talk to, you know, any of my students, or, you know, at a meetup, I'll overshare. I'm always oversharing. Like, dude, you're always giving out stuff that you should keep to yourself. Yeah. It comes around.
No, there's no shortage, right? It's an abundance out there.
Exactly.
So you gotta really hold that. Well, that leads us to the last question, which is, how can the listeners reach you if they want to become part of your tribe, ask you questions, bring you deals, take you to coffee, whatever? How can they reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Rafael Cortez on LinkedIn. My webpage, the easiest way to get me is going to be through probably Instagram, or shoot me an email at rc at thepulsegroup.net.
Okay.
And copulse.com is going to be the website, or is the website, so you can go on there and then come in and contact stuff. So.
Cool. Well, we'll make sure to add that in the show notes. And you know what, man, I really appreciate you being here today. You shared a ton of content, ton of stuff to help people build their business, move their business forward. You know, you bring a lot of experience to the table as well, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime, bro. I appreciate the invite, man. I feel very honored.
Yeah, absolutely. And for all the listeners out there, once again, if you're getting value from this podcast, tell your friends, tell your family, share it on your network, like and subscribe to the podcast, because we have a mission here, trying to excel people at lightning speed, but the content like we provided for you today. So with that being said, we'll talk to everybody real soon. Rafael, thanks again, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
See ya.